to our wellness webinar from Dreams and Visions ATL. My name is Shanae Joyner. I am a certified life coach through Dreams and Visions, and I also help them with all things marketing. Today, I am really excited about diving into a topic that is near and dear to me, something that I have grown to prioritize over the years, and that is self care and our overall well being. So, self care is really important as we develop busier lives, we have responsibilities, we have kids. So, having self care implemented into your routines is so important as things get busier for you. So, today we're going to go over some pillars of self care and what self care really looks like from a holistic point of view. And by the end of this call, hopefully, you have some good ideas of how you can better start taking care of yourself. Before I do dive in, I would love to talk a little bit about Dreams and Visions ATL. So, Dreams and Visions ATL is a mental health service provider based in Atlanta but services the entire state of Georgia. So, if you are dealing with any mental health concerns, whether that be depression or grief, anxiety, we have therapists, clinically licensed therapists who are ready to jump in and help you on your healing journey. I will give some additional ways for you all to stay in touch with us after this webinar, so stay on the lookout for that. So now I'm about to dive right into some self-care activities and things that you can really start using to prioritize your well-being. So you might want to pause this video right now, go grab some pen and paper, maybe get your notes app ready. There will be definitely opportunities for you to self-reflect. So pause and start this video as many times as you would like. And if you are not already subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and like this video one, and also go ahead and subscribe to our channel. We will be having more of these virtual events, so be sure that you are the first to know about them by subscribing to our channel right now. So again, welcome to our wellness webinar on self-care and wellness tips. So first, I would love to dive into what self-care and wellness really mean. So self-care is more than the occasional spa day or treats. It's consistent, intentional practice of maintaining your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health. So from all across the board, it's not just, having a day off or relaxing for a moment. It's really about how you implement moments of maintaining your mental, physical, and emotional well being throughout your daily routines. And then wellness is the complete picture of how you nurture yourself across all dimensions of life, creating not just balance, but a sustainable rhythm that adapts to your changing needs and circumstances. So, self care and wellness go hand in hand. So, there are 5 pillars of self care, in my opinion. So, the first would be physical. So, movement, sleep, nutrition, rest. Those are the foundations of where you get your energy from. So, try setting a consistent bedtime or tracking your daily water intake as a way to really start prioritizing your physical self care. Then we have mental. So, mental could look like your mindset, things that you're learning, how you're unplugging from overstimulation. So, consider weekly a thought download where you journal without judgment. So, a time where you really just brain dump and get your thoughts out. Sometimes we don't always have someone to talk to, and that's okay. We can journal it out. We can write out our thoughts and we can use that as a way of prioritizing our mental well being. Then we have emotional self care. So that looks like boundaries, expressing your feelings, nurturing relationships. So I love talking about boundaries because it is one way that you really do protect your well-being and prioritize your emotional self-care. So something like saying no is really self-care. Um, so sometimes we talk about people pleasing and saying yes to everything and not leaving enough room for ourselves, and saying yes but with guilt. So practicing saying no to activities that are constantly draining your energy is actually a way of prioritizing yourself and taking care of your emotional self care. Then we have spiritual. So, spiritual looks like purpose, reflection, gratitude, connection, something larger than yourself. Each day, try noting three specific things that you are grateful for. I think gratitude is a great way for you to just, reflect on the things that may have gotten you through the day. Something as easy as saying, I'm thankful for just having breath in my lungs or food on my table. You change your perspective on how you look at situations when you just exude more gratitude throughout your days. And then social. So that looks like healthy connections, community, support systems, intentionality with scheduling with people who leave you feeling energized versus people who leave you feeling depleted. So take an audit of the people around you. If people are causing you stress and really draining your energy, that's not really helping you take care of yourself because you're putting a lot of energy into people that don't make you feel good about yourself. So consider making an audit of what drains you, and then really lean into things that energize you and consider that your social self care. So, physical self care, we'll break it down a little bit further for each pillar. So, physical self care is, I would say, the foundation. So, some quick wins for physical wellness that you could start implementing into your life. Set a consistent sleep and wake up schedule, even on the weekends. Train your mind, train your body to be consistent at something and prioritize yourself. Um, Something as simple as really just going to bed at a specific time every day will help you build routine and consistency, um, and overall just help you with your physical self care. Then we have track your water intake with a marked bottle or an app reminder. They have plenty of those out there, and they also make those large gallon jugs that have the markers on what how many ounces you've drank so far throughout the day. So consider purchasing one of those if you don't already have one, or just being mindful of how many bottles of water you're drinking every day. But our bodies need water. Hydration is so key to just your overall physical well-being and mental well-being as well. We're made of majority of water, so we have to fuel ourselves properly. Um, and sometimes even when we don't drink enough water, that could lead to it can manifest into other areas of our life too. So brain fog could be a byproduct of really just not drinking enough water. So consider definitely drinking more water throughout the day. And then take 5 minutes of movement breaks during long sitting periods. Some of us have desk jobs where we don't get up much. If you have a standing desk, that's great for you. But sometimes we really are sitting down most of our days. So we have to be very intentional about moving our bodies, whether that looks like you starting your day with movement, or you ending your day with movement, or just finding those little nuggets throughout the day, maybe 5 minutes, to include movement. And then create a calming bedtime routine without screens. So consider maybe even taking a wind down section of your day. So maybe saying no screens after a certain amount of time, or no screens on certain days. So I think that will all help with your physical self care and just getting enough rest. So this might be cut off a little bit on the recording, but I have one reflection question for you is, what's one simple physical habit you could strengthen this week? So it's Monday, or whenever you watch this video. What's one simple physical habit you could strengthen this week? Don't forget, you can pause this video, come back, jot your notes down. So just really think about that. Now we're on to mental and emotional self care. So, some mental wellness practices would include scheduling 10 minutes of that screen free before bed, trying a thought download journal session once a week, learning something new that interests you that's not involved with work, something that really stimulates your mind, and then also practicing mindful transitions between activities. So I know sometimes when I have a lot of work to do, I will literally schedule in breaks. Breaks are so important. You can't pour from an empty cup. You have to refuel yourself at some point throughout the day. So incorporate those mindful breaks, those moments where maybe you, if you're always on a screen, maybe you just take 5 minutes to not be on a screen, and then you can get back to your normal routine. And then I have some emotional wellness practices. So practice the pause before responding when triggered. Practice the pause before responding when triggered. This is going to your emotional well being, okay? So think about how you respond to things, and taking a minute and realizing or trying to be cognizant of your emotional maturity and how you're handling things. That all goes into your well being and your wellness. Set boundaries by saying, I need to think about it, or I can't attend, but I hope you have a great time. Um, it does take practice if you are very used to not saying no. One thing that I hugely recommend is a boundary script. So if you have a hard time saying no to things, try making a script so that you can start practicing the next time someone asks you to do something and you just feel a little bit uncomfortable about saying yes. Return to that script and just start practicing it. Um, and I think sometimes we forget about, or we put too much pressure on the other person that they won't have the resilience to bounce back from us saying no, but trust me, they will. So if you need to say no, say no. And then check in with yourself daily. Do an audit for yourself, either in the morning or at night. How am I actually feeling? Be very in tune with your emotions. And then express them through maybe even creative outlets. Find some hobbies, um, journal, art, music, movement. Find creative ways that you can release your emotions in a positive way. Now, on to spiritual and social self care. So, we have spiritual nourishment, so you can connect with what gives you life, meaning, and purpose. So, start or end your day with 5 minutes of stillness. I know that may seem impossible for some people, but it is possible if you make the time. Even if that looks like just laying in bed for 5 minutes before your family knows that you're awake and just taking that 5 minutes of stillness, getting your thoughts together, maybe even saying a prayer or meditating. Definitely try it out. I think it could be a very impactful part of your day. Create gratitude practices. So we already talked about this. So journaling, taking mental notes, sharing gratitude with others. Spend some time in nature. So if you don't know already, vitamin D has a lot of benefits, and we get vitamin D from the sun. So just being out in nature and being able to absorb sunlight can have immense impacts on not only your spiritual well being, but also your mental and your physical well being. And then reflect on your values and how your actions align with that. Then I have social connection. So, our last pillar is our social self care. So, nurture relationships that support your well being. As I mentioned, identify those energy givers and those energy drainers. Schedule out some quality time with supportive people in your life. I saw something recently about friendships and relationships. They they require sacrifice. Sometimes it may be a little inconvenient for us to be friends, but that's what it takes. If you want to have a supportive community or friendships, you might have to be inconvenienced. You might have to pick up the phone when you don't want to and check on a friend just to maintain and build that relationship. Join communities. There's so many different types of communities out there. Whatever your interests are, I'm sure there is a community for it. You can find them online. They're at community centers. There's networking groups. There's churches. There's many places where you can find community in places that align with your beliefs and values and interests. And then practice vulnerability with trusted people. This goes back to just that relationship building. So find those people in your life that you feel comfortable with being vulnerable with. Sometimes just sharing something to someone trusted can make a big impact on your emotional well being and your mental well being. Just being able to know that I can go to someone and I can trust them with what I'm saying. That could be a friend, that could be a therapist, that could be a family member. So, now on to some common barriers to self care. So, some people associate self care with guilt and selfishness. So, some of the myths include I don't deserve to rest when others are working, which is completely not true. So, some ways to reframe that would be self care enables you to show up more fully for others and for yourself. Self care is not being selfish. That there is a definition for selfishness, but self care is not involved in that. So, definitely remember that you can rest and that you can take the time for yourself. Um, there's a huge saying that a lot of people believe is I'll sleep when I'm dead. And honestly, if you continue that thought process, you actually will. You can actually work yourself to death. So working and having high levels of stress and not ever taking a break do lead to serious health concerns. It's not just a fun saying to say, but really be mindful of how much you are working and how much time you're taking for yourself. There has to be some type of balance in that. Another barrier could be time and overwhelm. So you just think, I'm too busy to add one more thing to my plate. So a way to reframe that could be Small 5-minute practices can make meaningful differences. So you might think you don't have time for self care, but what if self care really just looked like you putting on some under eye patches on a random weekday night to for some skincare? Or what if self care looked like you reading for 5 minutes a night your favorite book? So it doesn't have to be something grandiose. It can really just be something that's 5 minutes and you can build on that. And there is really no right or wrong way for how you want to do self care. And then perfectionism. So if I can't do it perfectly, why bother? So a lot of us do struggle with perfectionism. Of if we can't do it all 100%, then just throw it all away. And you really should consider that consistency does matter more than perfectionism because the small steps do count. They do. It doesn't matter if you messed up on one piece of your self care routine and you just fell off for weeks or months. You can pick back up, and that's totally fine. Again, I'm sorry if my reflection question isn't showing fully, but the question is, what's your biggest barrier to prioritizing self care? And what would change if you gave yourself permission to care for yourself? So take some time to jot that down and kind of reflect on that question. What's your biggest barrier to prioritizing self care? What would change if you gave yourself full permission to care for yourself? So now let's talk about creating your personal self care plan. So, number one, start small. Choose just one tiny habit from each pillar rather than overwhelming yourself with an entire routine. So, that might look like going to bed at a certain time every night. That could look like drinking 32 ounces of water. That could look like meditating or praying every day. You can pick something from each category and just build off of that. Again, you perfectionism does not exist when it comes to self-care. It is really about how you want to take care of yourself as long as you are taking care of yourself. There's no wrong way to do it. And then make it specific. So not just drink more water, but drink one full glass before each meal. So I love habit stacking as well. So if you are having trouble or challenges with doing something for self care, stack it with something that you consistently already do. So if you watch the news every single morning before you go to work, maybe before you do that, sit down and journal for 5 minutes. Consider that. Consider just stacking a self care habit onto something that you already are doing. And then again, make it specific. So instead of just saying, I'll drink more water, have a goal. I want to drink 16 ounces of water before each meal. I want to drink 3 liters of water for the entire day. And then create a self care menu. So list out some quick activities that you can do when you feel like you're running on E, when you feel like you are feeling depleted. So that could look like I'll go for a walk. Maybe I'll go to the spa. Maybe I will turn off my phone for 20 minutes. Maybe I will go to the gym. So just make a list of some things that you can go to. So your go to list of self care activities. So you never have to think about it. You just pull out your journal, pull out your notes app, and you have a list of things that you can do when you're starting to feel depleted. And then schedule it. Block the time for self care. So I started doing this personally maybe a couple years ago where one day a month, because that's really my bandwidth right now, but one day a month, I'm at least writing self care on my calendar. So that looks like I might do a skincare routine, or I might not open my laptop for the entire day, or something of that measure. But I really do intentionally take time for self care. It doesn't have to cost anything, it doesn't have to be expensive either. So, a reflection question for you would be, what's one self care habit you can commit to for the month of October, or whatever month that you fall upon this video? What's one self care activity that you can commit to for a month? And then lastly, I want you guys to remember that self care is essential, not extra. It should be built into your routine. Self care is not a luxury or an occasional treat. It's a daily practice of listening to your needs and honoring them as valid and necessary. So, no questions asked. You really should be prioritizing your self-care and your overall well-being. There's many pillars, as we just mentioned, that you can pull from. It doesn't always have to be a spa day. It doesn't always have to be going outside and for a walk. It can be something so simple, and you can pull it from a social interaction. You can pull it from spiritual, from mental, from physical, from emotional. So just consider where you can implement self care into your life every day, because it is possible and it doesn't have to be anything too big. So reflect on this. What insight are you taking with you today? So if you have your notes, if you have your notes app, think about what's one thing that you can actually take away from this webinar today. And then just some next steps, if you want to do some homework after this webinar, is try implementing your chosen self-care practice daily for 1 week, and just notice how it affects your energy, your mood, and capacity to engage with others. Really tracking your changes, I think, is so impactful for the overall scheme of things, because when you can look back and you can see, oh wow, I did that for 30 days and this is how I feel. And it might not always be positive, it could be negative, and you might have to pivot or revise how you are doing your self care. But just a great way to reflect is to just track it for a good month, and see how your life changes. So that is all from me. And I want to say thank you for watching. Again, please, please, please like, comment, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're not already connected with us on social media, you can follow us at Dreams and Visions ATL on Facebook and on Instagram, and of course on YouTube. And then we also have a monthly newsletter that goes out at the beginning of each month. So you can go to dreamsandvisionsatl.com to subscribe to that newsletter. And we hope to see you at our next virtual event.